ease our way into just another one of these days. You know what I'm saying? It's just another day. It's Queen Latifah, just another day. You know what I'm saying? We've got to ease our way into the seminar. So you managed to get some sleep last night.
Yeah.
So like you're refreshed, you're ready to go. You can't wait for the seminar. You're revved up.
I'm excited.
You actually excited for this one?
I love Fannie Lou Hamer.
Listen, I'm actually a little hyped for this one too because I feel like there's a conversation, as I said, there's a conversation that we left off last week. And I think some of that conversation is going to lead really nicely into what we want to talk about for the next couple of weeks. And obviously, yeah, I mean, like I wasn't all that familiar with Fannie Lou, but we'll get into that in a second. But yeah, man, I just wanted to kind of like warm our way into this. You know what I'm saying? Slow, ease our way into this. Do a little Queen Latifah, just warm our way into it. You know what I'm saying? It's cool. We can take our time. There's no rush. Today's a good day. Today, I'm trying to keep today like a good day. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to keep it one of those like, I'm gonna slightly up. No, I want to just keep it there for a minute. Because like, you know how the world is. It's gonna get terrible in about 5 minutes. So I just want to keep it on the up note for about 5 minutes. But yeah, it's cool. It's cool. Meanwhile, like I'm still trying to figure out my housing situation. Headache.
Okay.
Headache.
Oh, the organizing you're doing?
Yeah, fam, it's crazy. It's crazy. Like I had time to do some organizing on top of everything else.
What's going on with it?
What's going on with it? None. I mean, it's just like now there's other buildings involved and there's other people involved and the issue just got bigger and I finally managed to get in contact with the quote unquote manager and like it's just turned into like a whole thing. It's huge now. Like, and I mean, I don't know what the payout is going to be, but I'm damn sure gonna make sure they pay out.
Yeah.
Like they paying something out. Everybody got letters from the management company today in the building, reminding everybody what their service charges are and like, oh, listen, we've increased the service charges this year, so that you know we've got to pay for like lift repairs and stuff like that. I was like, homie, the lift has been broke.
You increase the service charges, but you provide no services.
Ain't no services. Like, how you increasing the charges on people? Ain't no services. Everybody's still broke, and the building's still broke. Everything in the building still don't work.
It's not livable.
Not in this condition.
Yeah.
No, in this condition. But like, I don't know what to tell you, man. I don't know. So like, it's just been a headache. See, look, I've already come down from my high. Look, I was in a good mood about 3 minutes ago. Look what happened. It lasted that long.
Well, you should still be in a good mood because you got more buildings involved, which means it's gonna get bigger, which means it's gonna be a bigger payout from the company, which means you guys are able to help more people. Like,
I mean, listen, I don't want to turn it into a thing, but I'm more than happy. I said it to them when I spoke to them earlier on. I'm more than happy to turn this into a county-wide thing if need be.
I mean, to be honest with you, a payout is cool, but even better than that would be rent abatement for like a year.
For real.
Seriously, because how long have you guys been living in these buildings with these conditions?
These conditions? Like the dude... All right, so the brat upstairs from me, like my man up there has been living with this kind of situation for 3 years.
Yep.
3 years. The lady up above from him has been 2 years.
So for all the years that they've been living with these conditions, everybody should get a rent abatement based off
get rent abatement for real, like for that period of time. Nah, for real, I'm down. Like what we're saying is, listen, go around, make your kind of like list of all the things that have been lost, property possessions, emotional stress, time lost, all that other kind of stuff. And then once you finish that calculation, we add on to that all the time that you spent in unlivable conditions while you've been paying your rent. We tally that up, and guess what their bill is?
Yeah.
Like get across the whole building now. Guess what your bill is? Like it's just what you did to yourself.
Yep.
But like I don't know why we're talking about this.
The question though about this is whether or not, because you're gonna have to take it to the court system. I know from experience here in the U.S., housing courts work in favor of the landlord. They are not working on your side. And they say, so the housing court here will say, we're objective, blah, blah, blah. We're not on either side. And that's a lie.
Yes.
They are on the side of the wealthy, on the side of the landlord. So I would assume it's the same over there, but I don't know.
I mean, well, look, I don't want to speak for the entire kind of UK. I don't know. But what I will say is that the local kind of like politicians around here in the local council have been mad supportive. Like they've been dumb supportive. Like I've contacted everybody, I've spoken to them and they've said, listen, whatever comes up, how many buildings we're down, we'll support you the whole way. And my man's been like screenshotting me the emails he's sending to this company. He ain't playing. He's really not playing. Like he's really backing it. He's like, yo, where's your settlement? Are you giving a settlement to the whole building? What's the arrangement that way? Are y'all doing that?
Who is this that's doing that? Who is the person?
This is one of the councillors.
The councillors, yeah.
One of the councillors in the local town. It's like, it's mad.
the thing is, like, you know, and we should always be critical of power and positions of power because they are set up to you know, for certain purposes to really support the people with power.
Facts.
But it does make a difference sometimes, like when you have people in power who are more understanding of the situation and
Facts.
have a sense of what's right and what's wrong, you know?
Facts.
Yeah.
All right, so listen. Can we intro? Should we intro? Once we get past all this kind of like gibberish, should we do the intros? I will do the intro. Okay, welcome everybody. It's Dr. E's Open Seminar Series. This is Open Seminar number 45. 45, fam. That means we've been doing this for 45 weeks. Can you believe that? That puts us 7 weeks away from Open Seminar number 52, which means we've been doing it for 52 weeks, which if y'all know your basics, that's a whole year of these Open Seminars. But it's Dr. E's Open Seminar. I'm your boy, Dr. E, lead tutor at TBT, director and lead tutor at TBT, philosopher extraordinaire, PhD, all those lovely things. That's your girl over there, Tanzim, the great dictator, PhD to be. And of course, co-host on the greatest seminar, greatest podcast, available on TV, YouTube, Instagram, wherever the hell y'all get it. Speaking of which, y'all do your signups. That's SoundCloud, Spotify, Instagram, Mixcloud, Facebook. We everywhere. Do all the clickings and the bells and the da-da-da-da-das. We do the same time, same place every single week. That's Monday, 7 p.m. GMT. That's 2 p.m. EST. This 1 week is a little bit off. We'll talk about it in a second, but you know, we're back here on a Friday, but we'll be back to regular scheduling on Monday. So y'all get the live episodes with a little bit extra, like you saw on the Mondays, usually Friday this week. And then you get the edited version that pops up on YouTube on a Saturday. So this week, editors like, give me a little bit press. Yo, shout out Missy. Love you, Missy.
Hi, Missy. And Corinne. Thank you.
Yes, Corinne. Yes, Corinne.
We've been saying her name wrong for like so long.
I mean, listen, this is a whole story. We'll get into it at some point. But the point is, yeah, so y'all do your sign up, do your subscriptions, what have you. Check out the videos on the Mondays when we're on the lives, and on the Saturdays when you get the edited versions done by our girl Missy back there. But y'all know what we do. We bring that education for a new generation. You know, the kind of education you usually have to pay through the nose for, to sit in those dry ass lecture theaters with those crusty old white men. But we do it a little bit differently. We kick that education a little bit differently. Plus, we look fly in the process. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? What's up there? But anyway, so.
Can I just say something? I don't like that intro because it's actually what we're doing here is not what you would be getting in university. It's all the stuff that they wouldn't talk about. They wouldn't even bother to talk about in university. The history that they don't think is important. The stuff that they don't think matters. Like,
no, that's facts. That's facts.
Fannie Lou Hamer. You will never hear about her in a university.
I'm testament to that. That's actually facts. No, I mean, look, we do say this in the Instagram descriptions or whatever else, in the Facebook descriptions and yada 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 yada. That's all the stuff that they don't usually talk about in universities. The kind of stuff, the topics that don't usually come up there, but we bring those up. But the difference is that we have that level of expertise, right? So like, you're a real PhD to be, you're a real teacher. I'm a real PhD. Y'all, you know, do your lookups. Google Amazon me. There's a book, fam. Amazon me. But the point is, so like, we're real experts in our particular fields, philosopher extraordinaire. Now, it's not for nothing. But it's just that I don't think we bought all the way into the ideological framework of academia.
Right.
I think that's really what it boils down to, right? So that's the difference between us and the majority of everybody else. So y'all had to do all these podcasts and what have you, constantly talking every single week, telling you all kinds of things. I check them out. Yo, can I say this for 2 seconds? I don't listen. I want the smoke. I want the smoke. I do. I want it. Let me be clear. I want all the smoke. Let me be clear about this. But I checked out some of these other podcasts and what have you that's coming up, right? Because it's a massive, massive, massive business now. And although apparently statistically, did you know only 12 to 15% of podcasters are getting paid from this? Did you know that?
I believe that. I think most people are not. I would expect that most people are not getting paid.
I believe it, but it's crazy that that's the case. 12 to 15%, considering the size of the business, right? But in any case, I checked out some of these others, and fam, it's a lot of the same thing. Like, to be honest with you, like, I ain't trying to be disrespectful, but it's a lot of the same thing. Like, a lot of people just gathering around their groups and their friends, and they kicking it, talking about, you know, cultural issues or whatever the hot topic is, or whatever's on the shade room on Instagram or whatever else, which is, you know, it's cool and it's fun, and you got more or less ranges of like the cool and fun stuff there. But like, let me just be clear. I want the smoke. Why am I listening to any of y'all? Like, what makes any one person, no, for real, what makes any one person any more authoritative on what they're talking about than anybody else?
What is the force, Trisha, what is the force that causes objects to fall to the ground? Girl, you better.
I know this because my titties are low thanks to gravity.
Yay!
But
A
we
personal anecdote.
Can we just also say we don't actually need gravity? But that's a different thing.
What
Like,
do you mean by
I
that?
saw someone do this. Was this a TikTok? We were watching something where someone's like, we don't actually need gravity. We were watching this with me. Like, we actually don't need it.
What do you mean that we don't need gravity?
What if it was never invented?
Like, why am I listening to you over the next man's, over your next man's, over your next girl's, over your next girl's, over whoever, talking about the same subjects with the same type of jokes, kicking the same type of issues, talking about the same cultural points, and it's all on Instagram anyway, or Twitter. So it's like, why am I listening to you particularly over whoever the hell else? I've only got 24 hours in a day. I'm asleep some of that. I work a lot of that. So I've only got so many hours to kind of fill in between. I don't know. I just feel like it's a little bit different when the people who's doing the talking know what they're talking about. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying?
I think it's bold of you to assume that you know what you're talking about, but yeah.
I think you're funny. You're funny. No, I earned that, fam. I earned that. I put the work in. I earned that. All right? Go look me up. Anyway, intro's over.
Mm-hmm.
We have been doing a thing for the past month because it's February, which makes it, in the United States, makes it Black History Month. It's not Black History Month in the UK. It's LGBTQ month in the UK, but I think ours is October. I'm not sure.
I was gonna say, do you guys have a Black History Month?
Yeah. But I think it's in October. I might be wrong.
I think October for us is Latino Heritage Month, I believe.
Is it?
I think so.
Oh, okay. We ain't had that many Latinos, so it's like, you know.
Yeah, but do you guys have an Asian History
No.
Month?
I don't think there's an Asian History Month.
You don't have an Asian anything month?
Like there's I don't know that there's an Asian, like continental Asian thing. Like there's I don't know, there's Diwali that everybody kind of like has turned into a carnival everybody gets involved in.
No, but you guys need something, because so Asian in the UK, for anyone who doesn't know, actually refers mostly to South Asian, so people from Bangladesh, India, Pakistan, Afghanistan, Sri Lanka,
yes.
You know, but it includes other Asians, like who we would consider Asians as well. But it's mostly referring to that group, and that is the largest, one of the largest immigrant groups in that country.
In the UK?
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
It's one of the largest ethnic minority groups there, because you know that whole region was formerly colonized by the UK. So to not have that,
I don't know that there's really such a thing. Maybe I'm ignorant. Maybe somebody could tell me otherwise. You'll jump in on the chat or whatever else and tell me otherwise. If I'm wrong or if I'm being completely ignorant, maybe I am. But I'm not aware of like an Asian History Month, like Asian, not like Indian, not like whatever. No, Asian. I don't know that that's the thing. I know there are celebrations and like, you know, people get involved and what have you. Like there's Sikh celebrations. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And you know how it is in London, multicultural environment, or Manchester, Liverpool, like people get involved who aren't necessarily part of that culture, and it's a good thing. Like, you know, it's cool, but like I don't know that there's an Asian History Month. Like,
it's a difference when you make it like a national thing, you know, versus like, oh well, this thing is just happening, and if you happen to have friends from this place, then you'll celebrate that too, maybe with that. Like that's a different thing. I don't know.
But it raises, all right, so this isn't the thing that I wanted to talk about today, but it kind of it relates, right? Because it raises the issue of whether or not, or to the extent to which the Asian community has been as let's say, I don't know, forceful, forthright, I don't know, in pressing their rights or impressing their civil liberties or impressing their civil rights as hard as other communities in the United Kingdom. I don't know that that's always, I mean, again, I'm ignorant on this issue, so I'm not, this is not my area of expertise, so like I'm happy to say if I'm wrong on this, somebody tell me, somebody educate me.
I think the time, it depends on the time. Like historically,
yes,
there was a time in the UK when actually so if you were like South Asian, if you were Caribbean, if you were African, everybody was referred to as Black.
Yes, and that's still the case in a lot of places in the UK.
Really? Well, no, but what I mean, like, I don't mean like individual people, like the way I think about it. I mean like the way the state kind of categorized you. Everybody was
I'm with you.
thrown into the category of Black.
Yeah,
and this was like I think in the 70s. And at that time, there are stories I've read about like South Asians and West Indians, because they were two of the first groups of migrants to come to the UK in large numbers.
Right.
And I've read stories, and histories of these two groups fighting together side by side against, skinheads, against like, the racist.
Yeah.
English.
No, this was the case. This has been the
It's
case.
like physically fighting against them together, So it's like, I think part of what could have happened if you look at like how they're categorized now, they're separate.
Yeah.
And I think I wouldn't be surprised if there's a piece of that where it's like South Asians wanting to like separate themselves also from blackness and move more close or try to be in closer proximity to whiteness. This is the theme that we see.
This
in many
is my
places,
concern.
groups.
This is my concern.
And so once you start to do that, I feel like you stop or you don't demand of your rights in the same way.
Right.
Because you're trying too hard to assimilate into the mainstream.
And that doesn't mean, I don't want to tar everybody with the same brush here. That doesn't mean that I think that either one of us is saying that everybody in the Asian community in the United Kingdom historically or contemporarily hasn't been involved in or isn't involved in civil rights movements or isn't in Black Lives Matter or anything. That's not at all what we're saying. What we're saying is, at least from personal experience, anecdotally, I'm aware of large numbers. I'm not South Asian, but like I'm aware of Arabs and South Asians in disappointing numbers, shall we say, in personal experience, who would fit that description. You could describe that way as people who are trying a little bit too hard to kind of like to line up with quote unquote whiteness.
Yeah.
So it brings me to kind of my point, right? So we've been talking about Black History Month for the last kind of 3 or 4 weeks, for the last 3 or 4 seminars. And we've gone through a number of notable figures in Black History Month. So we went from James Baldwin to Martin and Malcolm, I think. Was that what we went to next?
Yep.
Cool. I feel like I'm missing somebody.
No, that's because we had technical difficulties in the beginning of the month, so we weren't able to do all the sessions we wanted to do and all the people that we wanted to talk about. But yeah, we did James Baldwin, we did Malcolm and Martin, and now we're gonna continue with Malcolm because we wanted to continue with speaking about him a little bit.
Yes.
So we're gonna go into Fannie Lou Hamer.
And we're gonna go into Fannie Lou Hamer, and that will basically sum up. That will round off our Black History Month kind of like period. We're gonna have a few more conversations after this, but like that will kind of round off our Black History Month kind of thing. But so we spoke about Martin a lot last week, and we went into a lot of detail about Martin's history, the perception of Martin's movement, the perception of Martin himself, so on and so forth. And then we spoke about Malcolm last week, so y'all check it out. OS44 is available. It's already, the edited version was already up on YouTube. You can check it out now. But the point is, this week, what I think we left off of that conversation, or the little bit that we left off of that conversation, with respect to Malcolm in particular, was I had this one like remaining kind of like concern, right? One remaining kind of question, one lingering issue that was stuck in my mind, right? So, okay. Bear with me here. Let me just flesh this out. Because I haven't actually said it out loud since the seminar. Like I haven't said this issue out loud since the seminar. So I'm gonna have to think this out really clearly as I go. So bear with me here. But you and I think would agree that throughout Malcolm's career, throughout Malcolm's time as an outspoken civil rights leader and so on and so forth, I think you and I both agree that his morals, that his principles, the principles on which both his civil rights kind of opinions were based and the principles on which his personal morals were based, were revolved a lot around the idea of dignity and humanity. Yeah. Right? Like I feel like that's a fair assessment, right? I want to be careful here because like I love Malcolm, so I don't want to say anything that's off, but I feel like that's a fair assessment.
I think that's what he was all about. And I think that's what attracted him to the NOI, because the NOI was very disciplined and very much about dignity and, you are a human being. And, they had to assert that because remember, Black people at that time and even today are constantly told in many ways that they don't qualify as human beings. Yeah. Yeah. No? So yeah, I think you're right.
Okay, so if we agree on that point, right? If we say, okay, so his opinions, his personal morals, and the opinions that kind of like undergirded his principles behind the civil rights movement, all of that stuff was based a lot on the ideas of dignity and humanity, and that was based to a large degree on this idea of the brotherhood of mankind, right? I don't want to. I know it sounds patriarchal. I don't want to make it sound hyper male, but these are just the words, right? But we're talking about, this kind of familial unity between all of humankind as a fundamental basis for all of your morals, right? So we begin from there. We assume that as a basis, and then we go forward from there and say, all right, cool. If we assume that we're all brothers and sisters as a family of mankind, we can then go, all right, so your morals should be like da 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 da. But we have to start there. And you're right. And the Black Civil Rights Movement is necessary to reinforce that, and it's necessary to assert it forcibly, because we have to start that. Like, you have to accept that as a starting point. Otherwise, none of this means anything. Cool. This is what appealed to me too about Malcolm when I first heard about him. Like, besides the fact that Malcolm came to me through Islam in the first place, this is what appealed to me too about Malcolm, because I wholeheartedly agree with that premise. Like, I don't think there's a part of my soul that doesn't agree with that premise. You know what I'm saying? Like, every fiber of my being was like, well, obviously. Cool. The problem I had is this. I don't know that a movement like that, that's to say, a movement based on this sense of the brotherhood of all of humankind, is sustainable in today's generation.
I don't agree.
Well, hold up. So,
I understand why you think that. But I don't agree.
I hope you don't agree. Because I want you to kind of give me some optimism, and I want to have some faith, and I want everybody watching this to come away from this and be like, oh no, y'all are right, man. There's some hope out there. Like, I don't want my depressive, like, sad ass to kind of be like, oh no, it's just what it is. So here's my thing though. There's this kind of, all right, I could put this two ways. I could kick this mad philosophically and make it super complex, or I can kick it like straightforward. How you want it?
Whatever you want to do.
I'm a philosopher. Don't do that to me. So look.
I know you want to be all fancy with it. Go ahead, do your fancy thing.
Well, no. Okay, look. If we put aside this, right? So if we just say that, if you kind of, we could frame it. Let's not do the philosophical thing. You could frame Malcolm's morals as like a Kantian style of morals, right? This assumption of this categorical imperative, this sense of duty on the basis of you functioning within a universe of laws in which everybody's a king or a queen within that universe of laws who have equivalent powers and so on and so forth. You treat everybody as a means, not as as an end in themselves, not as a means to an end, because they're all dignified human beings. Great, it's Kant. Then you get Nietzsche, right? Where none of this means anything. It's all gibberish. The only thing that matters is your personal identity, your personal success, your personal kind of like what have you, and your morals.
What Nietzsche says.
Listen, I love Nietzsche, so I'm being harsh, I'm brutalizing it, but I'm delivering it in the way that Nietzsche. Wait, hold up. I'm gonna rewind here for a second. Look at the battle rap rewind. What did you just call him?
Nietzsche. That's what his name is to me. Or
Nietzsche? Why is he just turned into like a Serbian auntie?
I don't know.
My Serbian auntie Nietzsche.
That's just what I see.
God is dead. So what I'm saying is, in the way that he's popularly understood, or in the way that Nietzsche's popularly interpreted, at least today, right? The idea is that yo, am I distracting you from something?
No, my uncle just called me. I have to just let him know. I'll call him later because I'm.
All right, cool. Uncles. See, I said auntie and the uncle.
Oh, because my dad is in the hospital, so he might. I know. For that, yeah.
I know. I spoke to him earlier on today, and my man's like medded up and super giddy, so like he's cool.
You spoke to my dad
over message.
Oh, okay.
Like I ain't calling. Yeah, I ain't call your man's, but like, the message and whatever. At some point, I've realized this earlier on today. I know we've got something to talk about, but at some point, we are going to have to explain the nature of our relationship. You understand that? Like, because we've been doing this for 40 some odd weeks.
I think people know we're married.
Okay, can we not just blurt it? I don't know if I'm satisfied, if I'm happy with just like throwing that out there like that. Oh, we just married. Like, I don't
married.
Like, okay, all right, fam. Like,
I mean, lazy. How you gonna make that fancy? It just is what it is. Listen,
one of these days, there's a story.
You can't philosophize everything.
No, I can't, but I can romanticize. I'm an Arab too still. Listen, I'm an Arab too still. I can romanticize. But no, one of these days we're gonna have to tell that story about how that happened. But
that's so funny that you say romanticize as if it's connected, like a something connected to Arabs, because that is not the idea that people in America have as Arabs.
No? No, y'all call every Arab is Habibi. What are you talking about? Like,
No, but first of all, nobody in America knows what the fuck a Habibi is.
stop it. Every dude in the corner store is Habibi.
No. But they don't know what the word means. They just know
Okay.
that this is what it's
They call
Habibi
it-
or Ak. That's it.
Okay. Yeah.
Also, and they don't know what either of these words mean at all. They just say them. But also, the image of Arabs is like, la 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 la, I'm gonna kill you. Like, that's what everyone in America thinks Arabs are. So all of this connecting romanticization to Arabs, no, guess what you're saying.
All right, fam. I don't know we ever need to do that again. The image of Arabs is just like.
That's what it is.
I don't know that we ever need to do that again. That was crazy. Listen. No, the reason I say it is I think I told this story before, but like a brief little story time is because I had a supervisor during my PhD who was like, mildly racist, and once told me that he thought I was too Arab to do a PhD in philosophy.
You told me this, yeah.
Yeah, and when I asked him what that meant, he explained, like he had the gall to explain, like he really thought it was a genuine statement that was worth explaining, but he explained and he said, well, no, what you need to understand is to be a philosopher, you need kind of like an architectural mind, right? You need to think in terms of geometry, it's about angles and, it's that kind of stuff. Your people, he said, your people a little more, you're poetic, you're romantic, you paint stuff, you know what I mean? You don't really have that kind of mind. I'm like, bro, you understand algebra was a guy, right? You know that. Algebra was a guy. His name was Algebra. You've been mispronouncing his name for like 1,500 freaking years. And we gave you that. Algebra was my name is Al-Saraf, you donkey. The point is. Anyway, I was almost going to call him donkey by the Arabic swear, but I feel like one too many Arabs who might be watching this know exactly what that is, and I ain't saying nothing. So the point is, so to go back to what I was saying, for Nietzsche, in the popular interpretation of Nietzsche, the idea is that this kind of like weird moral structure is meaningless, right? It's all what it all boils down to is your own understanding of yourself, your own understanding of your personal particular situation, and so on and so forth. That interpretation of Nietzsche philosophically tends to be it's thought of as what's behind this identity, this move towards identity politics, that stuff. Philosophically, that's what's behind that, right? Because the idea is they interpret Nietzsche as being this guy who says, well, screw the whole moral system, the only thing that matters is you. That's not what Nietzsche's saying, but that's how they interpret it. Cool. My point is, if you take it out of the context of philosophy, see, I did my showing off. If you take it out of the context of philosophy, what I'm saying is, in a generation like ours, like this current one, like your man's watching us right now, in a generation like ours, right, where we're talking about the thing that's more important than anything else is your own sense of individuality, your own sense of independence, your own sense of identity. In a generation so preoccupied with itself, is there still even a basis for a movement that grounds itself on the idea of the brotherhood of mankind? That we're all equal in the eyes of Allah if you're a Muslim, but you're all equal. Is that even plausible when everybody's out there trying to identify themselves all day long?
I think it is. The reason I say that is because when I was teaching this last semester, a class, so teaching online is different, has been different than teaching in person. And I think one of the differences for me is that we go off the readings a lot and we talk more about what's going on in the world, because I think there's a lot of tension now and it's hard to just like stay on topic and I don't know, like you can't just stay on the readings anymore. Not that I ever did that all the time, but like we tend to go off topic more and more, or off the readings more and more. Have discussions. And in those discussions with my students, I feel like a lot of them, like I remember we were talking about race. So I have this one class I do on race. And I literally just like, at one point I was like, isn't everyone just tired? Isn't everybody tired of this shit already? And they were like, yes. And it doesn't mean that they're tired, or I'm not trying to say I'm like to be tired of like being black or being brown or being whatever you are. What I mean is the way that we treat that thing in society, the way that we treat this thing of race as if it is a fundamental. Instead of seeing people as human beings, we see them as a color. And that's what I was referring to. And I think my students got it, and they were like, yeah. They were there. They were like, yes. Like, yes, not all of them, but many more than I would have assumed, I think it's the same. Like, so we have we talk about gender in one class, and a lot of them, there's a lot of pushback from my students sometimes. Sure. From some of them regarding gender and regarding trans people and being trans and this concept of being trans and the concept that gender is not real, because for so long gender has been so like connected to our body parts and what we look like that it shakes people. And I get right. What I did was what I always do. I have a documentary that I show where they actually interview trans people.
Okay.
And I show this documentary, and I'm always nervous to do it because I'm like, are they gonna say something ignorant? Are they gonna laugh? Are they gonna, what's gonna happen? Because you never know.
Right.
This last semester when I showed that documentary, everybody was just like, yo, seeing that changed their perspective. Even the ones who were like, even the men in the class who were like very put off by this idea of like trans, being trans or, trans people were even like, yo, that's not right. Like they connected to it on a very human level. And I remember, so there was this one person in that documentary who was a trans woman, and her life was just hard. You could see it on her face, and she had a lot of trauma, and one student was just like, when I watched that and I saw that person, I just had so much empathy for them. When she said that, I was just like, yo, because this is like this particular, I'm always nervous with this documentary because for this reason, with this particular trans person, because you can tell like there are people who would target her.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there are many people who would target her.
Right.
And that's why I always get like, I'm always like, oh, what are they gonna say? But when I heard that, like I felt so good. And I was surprised. I didn't expect anyone to say that, to be honest with you, but she used the word empathy. And she was just, and this was a student who, she wasn't against like trans people, but she didn't really understand how you could be how you could change your gender, because again, gender has been so connected to your body for so long that, she just didn't get it. And she was just like, no, I'm a woman. Like she just wasn't making sense to her. But even in all of that, she was able to empathize with this person on a human level. Right. And I thought that was so nice, and it really touched me. And I feel like seeing this last semester, like my students, and they're young. My students are young, like I teach in a community college, and I teach a lot of kids who just came out of high school. This semester, I'm actually going to be teaching high school students again. So that's always a fun experience. But I see something different with this generation a little bit than with ours.
Tell me.
I feel like our generation, millennials, we're really focused on ourselves. We created the selfie.
Yeah.
We are the ones that started all this identity stuff. Like we really did. I think we're the problem.
No, I'm with you, but if that's the case, you're talking about this generation is the one that raised the one that came afterwards.
Right, but there's something but there's something really about these younger kids.
Yes.
That they're just more, their openness to all of those identities makes them more open to every possibility of humanity, if that makes sense.
I'm with you. I agree on that. I agree with you on that.
You know what I mean? I think that there is a way to sort of connect with them on that level. At least I hope so.
I hope so too. Yeah. No, listen, I agree with you on all of that. Like, I feel like that's the case in my experience with most of my students and the kids I deal with on a regular basis. Like, I don't think I've met a kid who's like, ooh, what do I care about Black Lives Matter? Like, I don't think that's happened. White, black, brown kids, like it's been uniform in terms of response. I mean, but to some extent that's at least here, I'm not going to speak for New York on your situation in the Bronx, but over here, that's predictable insofar as, well, you ain't going to hire a brown tutor or a teacher if that wasn't your attitude in the first place. So when I bump into students that are like that, well, yeah, of course they're gonna be like that because they hired me in the first. Like they weren't gonna be that way in the first place. That's why they hired me. The ones who are that way don't hire me. You know what I'm saying? So I don't really ever talk to them anyway, so it's not a thing. Although there have been exceptions to that rule. Like there have been a couple exceptions to that rule. You get racist to hire you is hilarious.
I also see so many kids. Like this is why I like TikTok. I had to get off of it because I was spending way too much time on it and it was ruining my life. But I like it because all these young kids are on it, like Gen Z, and you see all these, especially like the young white kids who are realizing that they disagree with their parents on so much, and they were having like meltdown moments though.
No, I'm with you.
But it was sad, but it was really nice to see that they felt that so much. Like there were kids on there crying and they were like, why do my parents say these things? Why are they saying that George Floyd deserves to die?
No, I agree with you. Yeah.
And I think that that's telling, like our generation didn't do that. We didn't.
Don't do that. Don't do that. I don't know. Don't do that.
It's not that they're not individuals in our generation who did, but I think overall, we were about ourselves. Hence the selfie.
Okay, I'm with you, but that's what I'm saying to you. I feel like that generation raised this generation, and I don't think the apple fell far from the tree in this particular case. I agree with you in the sense that level of individuality and that many identities that came up, or that many kind of like definitive identities that came up in our generation that have influenced and continued into this one has done what you say is done. Let's say it's opened them up to the possibility of a whole bunch of other different things, and it's broadened their sense of identity, which in and of itself is not a bad thing. But it feels like going the longest possible way around to arrive at the same destination, because what we're trying to get to is whether or not we can arrive at a point of saying, okay, cool, now that there's so many multifaceted ways a person could identify themselves or distinguish themselves from what have you, can we now acknowledge that ultimately it's all the same thing? Like on some level, and on an important level. I don't mean politically, I don't mean socially, I don't mean in terms of gender and race, I don't mean in terms of temporal things, like things that come and go. That's why I'm a philosophy. I'm saying I don't mean those things. I mean in terms of morals, in terms of your ethics, in terms of what counts, in terms of what matters over the course of lifetimes. On that respect alone, that we can kind of go, okay, so we're all the same. And I don't know that this generation has gotten there yet.
I'm not saying that they're completely there, but I think they're really close, and I think that there's a possibility that they could get there, to be honest with you. And in some ways, I think they have gotten there. Like I still think about this summer, with the riots that happened regarding the George Floyd murder, and it was more multiracial than it's ever been, ever. I've been a part of all the protest movements for the past 10 years.
Yeah, I can understand.
Every time a black person gets killed by the cops, I've been there.
Yeah.
And I am telling you, it is more multiracial this time, and it made me so happy. And it was more multiracial, and it was more like confrontational. They shit up, excuse my language, but they did. They smashed stuff. I mean, you know how beautiful it was to drive through Soho and see Louis Vuitton and all these stores smashed up? Like, it was like a dream come true.
It was like a dream. Stop
no,
it. All right, but
we're not because, no, I'm not, listen, let me explain myself. I'm not trying to say I'm telling you to go out and like steal stuff. That's not it wasn't about that. But it was a recognition of the fact that these material things don't matter. Only human life matters. And that is what I appreciate about it. And that's why I say it was a dream come true. Because honestly, I was there. I didn't loot. I didn't take anything. I didn't loot because I don't want anything. And I'm not judging anyone who did take stuff. Do you? But what I'm saying is, for me, it's more about we're going to destroy this because this is what this society is based on, and there's something wrong with this. Like, this is what you value, and this does not actually have value. It's just a thing.
No, I'm with you. Listen, and I agree with you in principle, right? Yeah. But if I'm being pessimistic, I would say two things. I'd say one, granted, it was more multiracial and so on and so forth on this particular occasion or this time around than has been the case before, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we're anywhere closer to where we were trying to arrive at, where Malcolm's trying to arrive, where Fannie Lou Hamer is trying to arrive, where Martin is trying to arrive, particularly insofar as, like, when it comes down to election time, it's not as though there aren't 70 odd million people on the other side, and they include young people.
They are, but also those 70 million, I agree, right? They voted for Trump. 70 million people in this country, at minimum, wanted Trump to be the president again, either because they're racist or they're not themselves. They don't consider themselves racist, but they don't mind his racism, or a million other reasons. And I know some people who are Trump supporters.
Right.
You know, and the thing is, the common thread amongst many of them, not all, but many of them, is that they feel forgotten about, and this is how they react to it. They're reacting to feeling like no one cares about them and that they're struggling too, and he's the only one that spoke to them. This is what happens when you don't treat everyone like a human being, when you disregard certain people.
I get that, but this is what I'm saying. All I'm saying about that is that there's a sufficient susceptibility. This is what makes me nervous, is that there's a sufficient susceptibility amongst that generation. Like there's enough room, is what I'm saying, to be confused. There's enough room to be misled. There's enough room to be baffled, because I don't know that their morals begin by being grounded in a sense of kind of brotherhood and the brotherhood of mankind, the dignity and all of that kind of stuff. I don't know if they're not trying to arrive at that still.
And I say it with no anger, but I say it with very careful forethought. The language that you and I have been speaking to this man with in the past hasn't reached him. And you can never really get your point across to a person until you learn how to communicate with him. If he speaks French, you can't speak German. You have to know what language he speaks and then speak to him in that language. And when I listen to Mrs. Hamer, a black woman, could be my mother, my sister, my daughter, describe what they had done to her in Mississippi, I ask myself, how in the world can we ever expect to be respected as men when we know that we will allow something like that to be done to our women and we do nothing about it? How can you and I be looked upon as men with black women being beaten and nothing being done about it? Black children and black babies being beaten and nothing being done about it. No, we don't deserve to be recognized and respected as men as long as our women can be brutalized in the manner as that this woman described and nothing be done about it, but we sit around singing, "We shall overcome."
Yeah. I think most people are not grounded in that.
This is what worries me. I think you're right.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean you can't get there. You can.
Listen, I totally agree. I feel like you can get there. Now we're talking about getting to the mountaintop, right? So I'm going to start, like, before we start channeling Martin, you want to do, that's me. That's all I want to talk about with respect to this Malcolm thing. But you want to intro Fannie, because Fannie Lou is kind of your thing. Yeah. And I will confess, I didn't know that much about Fannie Lou before we decided we were going to do this. So you want to do the intros? I want to do a disservice.
So Fannie Lou Hamer, was a black woman from Mississippi. She was a sharecropper. Her family were sharecroppers. For people who don't know, sharecropping was basically the new slavery. When slavery ended in the United States, first black people were told that they were going to get reparations, 40 acres and a mule. That was what they were told. None of that ever happened. And in fact, the plantation owners who owned those enslaved black people were the ones who got reparations for loss of property. So basically, you have this system where for hundreds of years, black people in this country were forced into labor, kept from getting an education, kept from being able to read and write, told every single day that they were inferior and subhuman and treated that way. And then all of a sudden, this freedom is here, right? There, slavery has ended. You have all these free black people. But no one has an education. No one has anywhere to
No one has access to any of that.
No one has access to an education. No one has access to being able to get a job. There's just nothing.
Because it was okay, so you're not a slave, but you're not a citizen either.
Right, exactly. You're still not a human being.
Still don't qualify.
And so what ended up happening was these plantation owners, this is where sharecropping came in. Where basically you went back, many black people who were formerly enslaved went back to working on the same plantations that they were enslaved on. Because what else for nothing, for basically the
For
same
almost
as,
nothing, yeah.
for like the same as what the situation was before. So really, 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 if you want to talk about it, slavery didn't end in 1865.
Hell no.
Slavery didn't even end in 1965 because there were still people in 1965, in the 1960s, and into the 70s and into the 80s, and I would even say to this day, who are living under the same conditions. The name might be gone, but the practice is still here. There's a really good documentary I watched on Vice,
Oh yeah.
and it talks about this.
Mm.
And actually, they interview a man who I forgot what state. He's in a southern state somewhere. This black man who lives on a plantation. Well, was a plantation at least. I don't know what they do now. But he works there, and his family was enslaved by these people who own the plantation, and it's very clear when you watch that documentary that man is not free.
Yeah. Well, yes.
He is not free, and that is today. This is in modern times,
Yeah.
And so Fannie Lou Hamer, she was her family were sharecroppers. She was a sharecropper. She was able to read and write, which was very rare, but she was able to read and write. And she became an organizer in the civil rights movement. She started.
They made her the accountant as the sharecropper. They made her the accountant on the farm because she had this ability with reading and writing that kind of.
Yeah. Because she could read and write, she was the accountant on the farm. She was a sharecropper on, but she began to register Black people to vote in the South. She became an organizer in Mississippi, and she faced a lot of backlash because of this. She ended up losing her job. Like she had to leave the farm that she was on. Her and her husband were very poor. They moved to a different part of Mississippi. I don't remember the name, but she kept on what she was doing, and she started and it was, I forgot how many other people, but she was one of the people who started the Mississippi Freedom Party, which was a challenge to the Democratic Party of Mississippi, which was Democrats and Republicans are no different, never have been. This myth that Democrats are better is a lie. They're just better at concealing their hatred and their racism than Republicans. Republicans will tell you to your face, where Democrats will tell you, they'll show you, but they'll wave like a LGBTQ and a Black Lives Matter flag in your face.
In the process, exactly. Listen, as a refugee, we know the differences between Democrats and Republicans very, very clearly. A Republican would send the soldiers to your house and kill everybody in the house and burn the whole thing down and doesn't care in the process. A Democrat will do it with a drum. That's the difference.
That's the only difference.
That's the difference.
Bush versus Obama.
That's the difference. If you're a refugee, you know the difference.
Yeah.
Well, they both bombing you. Just one of them, you're gonna see the whites of his eyes before he does it.
So, Fannie Lou Hamer, along with some other people, they started the Mississippi Freedom Democrat Party, and it was a challenge to the Democratic Party. Right. And they were just like, how like I always think about like when you're in court. And like you just see how like they use everything, like there's just so many loopholes for them to like screw you over. No matter how much you try to work the system, they always screw you over. Like that is what happened to them. They got screwed over. They wanted to stand them in the election, and they were denied on like just bullshit, complete bullshit. And she was the first black woman to be in the Senate, inside the Senate, because they were doing a count to see if the Mississippi Democratic Freedom Democrats would I think stand or something like that, and they lost. They lost because they got screwed. But she was the first black woman to stand inside the Senate building. And she was also, I think, the spokesperson. She spoke. She was asked to be the spokesperson for, was it the NAACP? It might have been, I don't remember exactly. But when she gave speeches, so she was always asked to give speeches, because when she gave speeches, there is something so powerful about just her eyes. I mean, her words, her eyes. When you look at her eyes, Fannie Lou Hamer had this look in her face where she was like, that line,
I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired.
That's
Yeah.
Fannie Lou Hamer. So if you've
That
ever
is her.
said that or you ever heard that, that's her.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody quotes her and doesn't realize that they're quoting.
That's Fannie Lou Hamer, right? Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, and to the Credentials Committee, my name is Mrs. Fannie Lou Hamer, and I live at 626 East Lafayette Street, Roosevelt, Mississippi, Sunflower County, the home of Senator James O. Eastland and Senator Stennis. It was the 31st of August in 1962 that 18 of us traveled 26 miles to the county courthouse in Indianola to try to register to become first-class citizens. We was met in Indianola by policemen, highway patrolmen, and they only allowed 2 of us in to take the literacy test at the time. After we had taken this test and started back to Roosevelt, we was held up by the city police and the state highway patrolmen and carried back to Indianola, where the bus driver was charged that day with driving a bus the wrong color. After we paid the fine among us, we continued on to Roosevelt, and Reverend Jeff Sonny carried me 4 miles in the rural area where I had worked as a timekeeper and sharecropper for 18 years. I was met there by my children that told me the plantation owner was angry because I had gone down, tried to register. After they told me, my husband came and said the plantation owner was raising Cain because I had tried to register. And before he quit talking, the plantation owner came and said, Fannie Lou, do you know, did Pap tell you what I said? And I said, yes, sir. He said, well, I mean that if you don't go down and withdraw your registration, you will have to leave. Said then if you go down and withdraw, that you still might have to go because we are not ready for that in Mississippi. And I addressed him and told him, say, I didn't try to register for you. I tried to register for myself. I had to leave that same night. All of this is on account of we want to register to become first-class citizens. And if the Freedom Democratic Party is not seated now, I question America. Is this America, the land of the free and the home of the brave, where we have to sleep with our telephones off of the hook because our lives be threatened daily because we want to live as decent human beings in America? Thank you.
When you look in her eyes, it tells you, she says that to you with her. She doesn't have to put in words. She was sick and tired of being sick and tired, and she gets tired.
For a minute. Yeah.
And the other thing I love about her is that you have to please go and look up her speeches. The quality is really
100%.
bad on them on YouTube, but just go and look at them because you need to see her face.
Yeah.
For me, it's about her face and her eyes.
Yeah.
When she looks at you, you understand 2 things. One, that she recognizes that you're a human being, but more importantly, that she recognizes that she's a human being. And I think that in 1965 or whatever year it was, for a Black woman in the South, in the southern part of the deep South of America, who was a sharecropper, to be able to convey that and to believe that is very powerful. Because again, you are working against a society and a system that has told you and all of your ancestors
consistently, yeah, exactly, without break, without
that you are not a human being.
Yeah.
But it's that defiance that I love about her, right? Because she's literally just saying, no, I am.
Yeah.
No, I am.
But this is what I like about the particular thing that stood out for me. I mean, there's more to say, but the thing that stood out for me more than anything else was the self-evidence of that defiance. It wasn't like, it didn't need to be aggressive defiance. It was like, no, I'm gonna just keep doing this.
Right.
Like, no, because this is right, and I'm gonna just keep doing it. And it's the perseverance, it's the determination, it's the conviction, it's the certainty.
It's when you know you're right.
You just know.
You just know.
And she didn't need to prove it to nobody. I didn't need to kind of make it clear to you. I didn't need to. No. I'm gonna just keep plugging away at this until we get to where we need to get to. Like, you're gonna get there eventually. There was this. She said also, just kind of so we don't mess out in terms of her successes. She in one of the speeches that I listened to, she talks about them eventually managing to purchase some 680 acres of land.
Oh my God, yes. So she was able to purchase all this acres of land, and she created a farm share for black farmers in Mississippi.
Yes.
That, to me, that was like amazing.
That was like, incredible.
Literally, like, she was like, okay, I'm gonna do this and everybody's gonna eat.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
And that was everybody could grow their own food and whatnot.
And that's her legacy. Like,
it's
she
amazing.
took care of everyone.
But see, and it raises my point. I say I hate doing this. I hate doing this because now I'm going to cut into the conversation about Fannie Lou Hamer, and I love Fannie Lou Hamer, and we want to talk about this. But look, this is my point. This is exactly my point. So, you can't have another Fannie Lou. You can't have it. Do you know why? Let me tell you why you can't have another Fannie Lou. Because everything that Fannie Lou did would have been opposed by the people who you would naturally and traditionally assume would oppose her. That was as true then as it will be today. That much will still be the case. But if Fannie Lou if there was a today's Fannie Lou trying to do exactly what she was doing then today, the people on the left of her would be looking at her like, well, that's what do you call it? That's an NGO type. That's a weird non-profit type thing.
There is a segment of the left that would critique that.
That's not a real. It's not revolutionary enough. It's not. All right. I don't know if we've told the story before, but can we tell the story about our Italian friends and the dude selling the flowers? We need to. Because it's a thing. Because it really happened in life, though. Because it wasn't like, these aren't a theoretical situation. Go ahead. Tell me the story.
I went to Italy a couple years ago because I knew some leftists out there who invited me to come and kind of talk about what was happening with movements in the U.S.
You were giving speeches. Tell the truth. You were giving speeches. You were giving speeches.
I was literally just talking to a room of like 10 people. But
y'all did your chairman Mao.
It was like 10 leftists. But no, it was cool, and I had never been to Italy before, and so we went. And I remember after we ended up, was this in Florence or Bologna? I think it was in Florence.
It was in Bologna. We were still in Bologna. Yes.
Okay, yeah, you're right.
We were in the restaurant eating the bolognese in Bologna.
Well, we went to this restaurant afterwards with some of the people who had put this together, some of the leftists, and this migrant. So there's a lot of migrants in Italy, just like there is all over Europe. And this migrant came in, and I think he was from Bangladesh. I don't know, but he was some kind of South Asian.
Yes.
And he was selling flowers.
Yeah, like roses.
Roses. And the man is just trying to save money. And you got to remember, migrants who come to Europe, many of them come, they do these little jobs, and they send money back home because they have kids, they have back home they got to take care of. And so this is probably what he was doing. And so I saw him, and I wanted to give him something, so I gave him some money. And one of the guys goes, "Oh, you guys are good people." And he said it in a weird way. It was almost like he was mocking me.
It was patronizing.
And I was like, what?
It was patronizing, deliberately patronizing. He was looking down at you.
And he was like, "Oh, you're good people. You give him money." And I was just like, I was so confused because I was like,
as opposed to what?
Like, what would I?
What else was I supposed to do? Yeah, not for real.
I just didn't understand why he was saying it like that. And then he was like, "It's good. You're a good person, but it's theoretically incorrect." And I was just like, I couldn't believe somebody was saying these words. And I was confused for a minute. I was just like,
poverty is factually incorrect. Forget theoretically. What's wrong with you?
But I was confused, but you knew immediately.
Because I knew this from the get-go. I knew this from the jump. I know this.
You didn't like this. So he didn't like this guy.
No.
And I argued with him. So the thing is, this man let us stay in his home for free.
I'm going to rename him for the purposes of the seminar. We're going to call him Francesco for the purposes of the seminar.
So
yeah.
Francesco let us stay in his apartment for free. And I was just like, how? And he's over here like, basically like talking shit about him. And I was like, I got so angry. We had the biggest fight that night. You remember that?
Do I remember that? Do I remember that?
Okay, you do. We had the biggest fight. It was like horrible. And it was because I was like, what did I marry? I was like, how can he say this? Somebody's letting us stay for free and he's talking like this about them. I was so appalled at you, at your
I
behavior.
know.
Cause I was just like, what have I really thought that night that I made a mistake. I'm not gonna lie. In the back of my mind, I was like, I made a mistake. I married someone who doesn't know how to be gracious.
Unbelievable.
I can't believe it.
Unbelievable.
And then
Unbelievable.
this happened. And I'm just staring at Francesco and I'm like, what is he saying right now? He's like, it's theoretically incorrect. They have to struggle with us. And I'm just like, he's selling flowers.
But his thing was,
this is how
by
he
giving
makes
him the
money.
money. Yeah, but let's be clear. By giving him money, what you were doing was keeping him in his condition. You were perpetuating his condition rather than him introducing him to Marxist theory and allowing him to fight in the struggle with us, whatever the hell that means. Whatever the hell that means.
That's
And
what
I
he-
understand. I know the pun. I'm wearing red today. I see it. Yeah. Relax, people. But yeah, that's what I was. That's what I was. But I was not gracious.
No, but first of all, when he said that, I was ready to jump across the table and smash his head into the
I
wall.
know. I saw the look on your face.
I could not believe that somebody was saying these things.
And then we found out that Francesco was a rich boy from Lake freaking Como or something like that. Owned like, I don't know how many different homes and what have you. And this is just one of them. He cared less whether or not we were staying in it.
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
was wrong.
No,
I didn't know. All I knew was this people invited me. This guy gave me a free place to stay. I was like, oh my God, this is like so nice of you.
let me say something. You know who you knew? You know what you did know? You know what you knew? I'm your husband. That's what you knew.
Yeah.
You knew me. You knew your husband. And all I was trying to tell you is, your boy's wilding. And you were like, no, why are you saying that? No, I was like, no, but your boy's wilding. No, but you're just judging him.
I'm not gonna just follow you. I'm gonna have to see it myself. You want me to blindly follow? I don't do that. So I didn't see it then.
And then
All
you
I
seen
knew-
to it.
The thing is also, you're right. I don't understand. There's a certain way that Europeans are that I can't pick up
Yeah,
on.
European racism is different.
I don't understand it because in America racism is just like we f***ing hate you. Like in
No,
Europe,
I know.
I don't know. It's like something.
They don't
They're
need
really nice.
The Europeans don't need to European racism is they don't so much need to express the hate up front like that because there's a history of class, so they just assume they're better than you. I don't need to prove it. I don't need to say it. It's just the case. It's the case. It's like gravity. It's the case. I'm better than you. Like, it's just not even a debate. So it's not a concern for that. I don't need to kind of state it or prove it. I ain't worried about you. Plus the numbers of minorities aren't the same as they are in the US. Anyway, point is, this is why I feel like a Fannie Lou is not possible in today's generation. Because someone...
of one Italian.
No, not because of Francesco, but because of Francesco in Firenze, no, in Bologna. No, not because of Francesco, but because of the leftists like him, of the people of his ilk, because of the people of that nature, of the people who would genuinely criticize that movement because it's not revolutionary enough.
The people who are the leftists are inconsequential. I learned that. They're actually inconsequential because all they do is talk. They talk about theory, they talk about their idea, they talk about themselves.
No, yeah, that's basically what's
But
happening.
who was in the streets?
For real, facts.
Who was in the streets in the summer?
Facts.
Because it wasn't them.
Facts. You're scaring me with that
It was
finger.
all the young black and brown and white kids who had it.
Facts.
Who had it.
No, facts.
Not because they read Marx, not because whatever. It's because they're living it. They're seeing it. They're experiencing it, and they're tired. And so, if you think that it's not possible in this generation because of the leftists, they're like 0.001% of the population.
I agree. I think those kinds of leftists are 0.001% of it. And I'm saying a lot of this for jokes and for laughs, but I feel like they're symptomatic of a broader church. This identity politics thing. Let me just make it clear for one, right? For one, Michel Foucault. Y'all don't know Michel Foucault, but it's why y'all need to do your philosophy, okay? But Michel Foucault was a gangster, okay? He was a gangster. The point is, Michel Foucault had this interview one time with a journalist. And the journalist says to him, why is it that your tone and your narrative style changes from book to book as much as it does? It makes it very, very hard for your audience to identify your work. Michel Foucault, like the gangster that he is, responds to that, why would I identify myself? I leave that up to the police. You're trying to identify everything all the time. What are you snitching for? Like, who you trying to... And then everybody out here all day long is like, this my identity. No, this my identity. No, this my identity. Look at my identity. I got different identity. It was like, all right, bro, you got to stop snitching on yourself 24 hours a day. No one cares what your identity is.
But it's also like, no one cares. Why you care so much about yourself?
This is my point. That's my point. And I felt like for Malcolm and for Fannie Lou, there was something that mattered more than themselves. Like Fannie Lou did what Fannie Lou did, and I'm not an expert, but she did what she did because she was that kind of conviction, that kind of determination doesn't happen if it's not grounded in something more important than myself. Because she suffered to do what she did. It's not as though it was an easy road. Yo, she got death threats left, right, and center. They had to move because the KKK was chasing her down. She got the living daylights beaten out of her at one stage. Like, there was all kinds of things that she went through in order for her to do what she did. Ultimately, just to kind of create a cooperative farm and free as many people as she possibly could by means of voting.
Yeah.
So it's not as though it was easy for her to do what she did. You have to believe in something more important than you to be able to do that. And I don't know how many of these people in this generation believe like that with that level of conviction in something more than themselves. Like, I feel like if you take away their IG and their TikTok and their Twitter, like, they lose their ish. I don't know. We ain't getting into that. Point is, Fannie Lou.
Look.
Yeah.
Like I said, I don't think that they're there yet, but I think that there's potential there.
I agree.
I think there's more potential there for this generation, for Gen Z, than there ever was for us. Millennials,
No, listen, I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. I'm old man, kind of like just tired old man, you know what I'm saying? And like Fannie Lou's eyes just got me in a mood.
Mississippi is still a very rough place. You know, people is not just walking up like they used to do in the past, walking out, you know, shooting a man down or getting maybe 200 or 300 people carrying you out and lynching you, but it's in a more settled way. You know, they can let you starve to death, not give you jobs. These are some of the things that's happening right now in Mississippi. See, Mississippi is not actually Mississippi's problem. Mississippi is America's problem. Because if America wanted to do something about what has been going on in Mississippi, it could have stopped by now. It wouldn't have been in the past few years, between 40 and 50 churches bombed and burned. You see, and this lead me to say, you know, all of the burning and bombing that was done to us and the houses, nobody never said too much about that, and nothing was done. But let something be burned, you know, by a black man, and then, my God, you know, you see, the flag is drenched with our blood. Because, you see, so many of our ancestors was killed because we have never accepted slavery. We had to live on it, but we've never wanted it. So we know that this flag is drenched with our blood. So what the young people are saying now, give us a chance to be young men, respected as a man. As we know, this country was built on the black backs of black people across this country. And if we don't have it, you ain't gonna have it either, because we gonna tear it up. That's what they saying. And people ought to understand that. I don't see why they don't understand that. They know what they've done to us. All across this country, they know what they've done to us. This country is desperately sick, and man is on the critical list. I really don't know where we go from here.
The point is, I will say this, right? So I heard of all of the speeches of hers that I heard, the one that stuck out for me the most, besides the fact that it was the one with the best quality, because there weren't many that had really, really good quality available on YouTube, but it was the one where she doesn't say I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. It's the one where she says, oh, if I ain't free, then you ain't either. It's that one.
Yep.
It's the if I ain't free, then you ain't either. And it's directed at white people.
Because it's true.
And it's true, but it's just, Fam, it's the ease. It's exactly what you were saying beforehand. It's the ease with which she delivers it. It's the confidence with which she delivers it, without it having to be academic, without it having to be hyper formalized, without it having to be delivered in a particularly kind of, whatever way. It lands because it's true. It, like, the conviction of, in her own words, because she knows I'm only observing the case. It's gonna land because it's true. I don't need to jazz it up. It's the case. And I was like, yo.
Yeah.
Yo.
It's true. The most powerful speakers, the most powerful people are people who just say it straight. You don't gotta make it
100.
fancy. You don't gotta be an academic. You don't gotta sound smart, whatever the hell that is. You just gotta say it. And you gotta say it in a way. The thing is, understanding is not here. Understanding is here in your heart. You gotta say things in a way where people understand it, where they feel it.
100.
Not where they understand it logically. It's not about a logical anything.
100%.
It's here.
No, I totally agree with you. And I could kick like 4 hours of complex philosophical like explanations for why that's the case, but let's not do that right now. Forgive me. But she starts that speech. That particular speech is introduced by Malcolm X, which I love, obviously, right? So Malcolm introduces her, gives an amazing speech as per usual beforehand, 25 minutes or so to introduce Fannie Lou, and then Fannie Lou comes on. But what got me is the difference between the two of them. But again, it's the way she delivers everything, man. It was like amazing, and it's partly because, as I said, I wasn't introduced to Fannie Lou much before we decided we were going to have the seminar on her. But the way she introduced, the way she delivers everything, is something else. So she starts off by saying, like, not worrying about the mic too much because she feels like I talk loudly enough, my voice will carry. So don't worry. Like, if y'all can't hear me in the back, don't worry, I get loud.
I'm used to hollering, so I'll just holler.
I'm used to hollering, so I just holler. I was like, yo, you already got me. You already got me. It's like, I bet, cool, fair enough. And then she explains, and she says at some stage, I'm not one for, like, she's not one for all these fancy words and what have you. That's not what it's about. So she says, I'm just gonna say it like it is. Like, I'm just gonna tell it like it is.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. And she got.
Malcolm used to have a thing like that. He make it plain.
Make it plain.
Make it plain. That was the same thing.
That's what it is. Make it plain. Hey, yo, make it plain, homie. But yeah, so she begin her speech by saying, I'm just gonna tell it like it is. There's no room for any of that other kind of stuff. And when she was, did you know when she was awarded with an honorary doctorate? I can't remember from which university, but she had to attend in order to receive the doctorate, obviously. And there was a bunch of PhDs and professors at that university who protested her doctorate because they said that she wasn't, and protested her attendance, not just her doctorate. They initially protested her doctorate and it was granted anyway. Then they protested her attendance at the university to collect it. They felt that she should just get it in the mail or something because they said that she wasn't, I'm quoting, she wasn't sufficiently lettered to stand on the stage. She don't know enough words, to put it in other words. She don't know enough words. It's a madness. She don't know enough words. Like,
and you see, this is inherently the problem with academia.
I agree.
Not with education, but with academia. You know,
I agree.
Is that what are you doing? It's not about this is what I always feel. I'm like, what are you doing?
What are you doing?
I don't understand this. This is ridiculous.
Hey, what are y'all doing? This is supposed to be school. What is this?
Yeah.
What do you guys think this is?
Yeah.
No, I'm with you. 100%. I'm with you. And I feel like a large part of what got me about Fannie Lou is exactly that, is the fact that she cuts through the hype. She cuts through the hype on both sides. Like, she cuts through the hype of kind of, the romantic revolutionary verbiage, right? You can think of, like, what's it? It's the guy from V from Vendetta. Yeah. V. But in any case, so you can kind of put aside the romantic verbiage because she cuts through all of that. But by the same token, you could put aside kind of all of the political gibberish, the political jargon, whatever else. It's not even about any of that. It's not even a moral issue. It's just what it is. It's not even any of these things. Like, it's got nothing to do with either of these things. We're talking about gravity here. And I feel like that, you're absolutely right. Delivering that kind of information that way lands a lot harder than by any other method. And that's a lot of what's lost in universities, and a lot of what's lost in academia, a lot of what's lost in education, generally speaking. But it's because, and Fannie Lou was clear about this, and I think everybody of her nature was similarly clear about this, I don't think universities were ever intended for that purpose anyway. Like it's not
No.
like they were trying to enlighten you. They were there to make sure that you agreed with them.
Well, they're there to get you to follow the rules of society.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. But the thing is, you select a particular few because the idea is that amongst the general generation, a select few are going to be slightly more intelligent than the rest, which makes them slightly more dangerous than the rest because they can manipulate things because they're intelligent. So what you got to make sure they're sufficiently indoctrinated. So you create this whole structure to make sure they're sufficiently indoctrinated in the ideas of academia. And
That they believe in it so much, like not just like, how do I say it? It's like you see those people who like their person is linked to academia, like without it they're nothing.
Yeah.
It's like that. It's like getting you to identify with it, as if like that's what makes you, I don't know, who you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, we'll come back to this issue of identity. But I'm with you, man. And for me, the thing I took away mostly, more than anything else, about Fannie Lou and everything she was saying in that speech and all the others that I listened to and all the other stuff that we looked at, is besides that straightforwardness and the forcefulness of that straightforwardness, it's, as I said beforehand, it's the conviction, the kind of the quiet conviction that undergirded everything she was saying. It was underlying everything she was saying. The quiet conviction of it, the absolute certainty of what's right and what's wrong. It didn't need to be aggressive. It didn't need to be loud. I don't need to be what have you. It's not like she wasn't being, but I don't need to be. All of that to me was just, fam, I don't know, man. So if y'all don't know enough about Fannie Lou, go. I mean, I'm not saying we did her justice, but y'all check her out. Hit up YouTube, type her name in, do the searches, whatever else. Spend your time like looking up stuff that's a little more meaningful. Learn something. And who knows, man? Maybe the spirit of Fannie Lou makes its way into this generation somehow, and I'm way off point. And like, you know, we're on the cusp of some significant, important, I don't see it personally, but like, who knows?
Before I close, I would just like to say that I believe in God. And he said he would raise up a nation that would obey him. So the young people that's out here today, that's fighting for justice for all human beings, I believe are the chosen people that's going to lead this country out if it's not too late. I have one announcement, and then I'll close. The Community Code Study of the Third World Development starts March the 18th at 7 a.m. St. Francis House. These are the young people that some of you sponsored that made it possible for us to have today 680 acres of land, are enabling us to determine some of our destiny, and enabling us to stand up as human beings, not to try to take the state of Mississippi. Because if tonight I figured the state of Mississippi would come 100% black, I would be on my way out. But to make it a state where all human beings will have a chance. And as I close, I would like for you to take a look in the mirror and ask yourself, as we have paid such a big price, ask yourself, must I be carried to the sky on flowery beds of ease while others fight to win the prize and sail through bloody seas? Thank you.
I really feel like we have to be, because honestly, we can't continue like this. So it's either that we're on the cusp of something and we're gonna change something, or we're gonna just kill each other off. We're gonna just die off. Like, those are the two options. You can't continue like this. It's just not possible.
I agree with you. I agree with that. I agree with that. I don't think it's,
to be honest,
yeah,
I'm okay with either option at this point. I prefer option one, that we create something better. But if we just die, it's fine too.
well, listen. Let me just say this much. There's what I think we're trying to kind of express more than anything else, the most important thing that I feel like everybody needs to take away from this particular seminar more than anything else, as we get towards this the end of our Black History Month seminars, is the idea that the most important thing is that principle of familiarity on which Malcolm's ethics were based, on which Martin's ethics were based, on which James Baldwin's ethics were based, on which Fannie Lou Hamer's ethics were based, on which we shout at every kind of major leftist you can think of, every major kind of civil rights leader you can think of.
Fanon.
Frantz Fanon. I mean, all of them. The principles are the same.
Talk about next week, right?
Maybe.
Okay.
We might do this. We're going to
talk about Fanon at some point.
We are going to talk about Fanon at some point, and we are going to talk about, I feel like we need to talk about Nietzsche at some point now, because I mentioned him like 2 or 3 times, and it's Nietzsche.
Yes.
That needs to be done at some stage. So that's going to happen. But in any case, crying out loud, sorry, I don't know what just happened. But yeah, in any case, I feel like the most important thing that everybody needs to take away from this is that principle, right? So the idea of that fundamental familiarity, the idea of that fundamental thing that holds all of us together, that gives us all a joint sense of morals and a joint sense of principles. Like, none of this makes sense unless that's the assumption. We have to start from there. We have to begin from there. Like, no matter your identity, no matter your personal politics, no matter your personal history, no matter your personal traumas, no matter your personal demons, no matter all of that stuff, putting all of that stuff aside on the basis of the understanding that we are all mortal, we are all human beings, we are all born, we all die, we all breathe the same air. What's that great JFK speech? We all breathe the same air, we're all mortal. Yeah, man. Yeah. Shout out Fannie Lou, man. Rest in peace, Fannie Lou Hamer. Yo, she died young. She was 58.
Of course she did. Her life was hard.
58, no?
You can't survive. You can't survive under those conditions for too long.
I'm with you, man. All right, so listen. I feel like we should wrap this up. How you feel?
Good.
Okay. All right. So it's been another open seminar. Thank you all for being here with us, for watching along with us. It's Dr. E's open seminar. This was open seminar number 5. Y'all know what we do. We're back here, same time, same place next week. Next week we'll be back to regular scheduling. So that's Monday, 7 p.m. GMT, 2 p.m. EST. I've been your boy, Dr. E. She's been your girl, Tanzine. Y'all do what you always do. The pandemic is still around. If you don't have your vaccines, whether or not you do have your vaccines, we've got to wait for herd immunity to kick in. Everyone's got to get their vaccines up. So y'all stay home, stay safe, mask up where you can.
Yeah.
Exactly. Mask up where you have to, do all of those things that you're
and
supposed
guys,
to.
Please, if you're able to get the vaccine,
get it.
And you're able to help other people sign up to get the vaccine. There's a lot of people who don't have, I don't know how people are doing it, but if you're signing up online, ask people, ask your neighbors, ask all the elderly people, ask people who, maybe don't know how to do that, who don't have access to the internet. If they need help, please help other people sign up for this, because this is a matter of life and death, and you have to do it.
Facts. Y'all get your vaccines. Y'all sign people up for the vaccines. Y'all do what you need to do. Let's get this herd immunity up. I want to get past this coronavirus thing. I want to make this a memory. Let's make this a period of history that we all got past. We all got through it. Fam, there was a time when people used to queue up to get the polio vaccine. It was a big deal. It was like trying to get an iPhone. You know what I'm saying? So listen. No, for real. So let's do all of that. That's for real. Let's do all of that. Everybody stay safe. Everybody stay home. Look after each other. Look after your loved ones. Hey, and in case y'all forgot, not that you could forget, but in case y'all forgot, Black Lives been matter, Black Lives still matter, Black Lives will matter. That's just what it is over here. That's just what it's always going to be. Y'all have any issues with that, I speak to you no time, never. Peace, one. Thank y'all for coming along. We'll see you next week. Love, light, and blessings to everyone. Peace and health. Love.